A bombshell new report alleges that GOP members of Congress and Trump administration staffers had planning sessions with organizers ahead of the January 6th rally that led to the insurrection at the Capitol. Meanwhile, human insurrection, Marjorie Taylor Greene, got into yet another shouting match with colleagues on the House floor. For more on this, it's time for a closer look. After 4 years of Trump, I feel like our barometer for what counts as a scandal is a little off. Trump generated too many controversies to count, so we just moved on. For example, no one seems to remember or care that on top of everything else he did, when Trump was president, the White House accepted at least 83 separate gifts from Saudi Arabia, including artwork featuring picture of President Trump, multiple swords, daggers, leather ammo holders and holsters, tiger and cheetah fur robes, and a dagger made of pure silver with a mother-of-pearl sheath. I guess that means they hacked his Amazon wish list? Were they under the impression that our president was the drug dealer from Boogie Nights? My only regret is Trump never showed up to a rally wearing all of it at once. I killed this cheetah myself, folks. He was fast, but I was faster. Ran him down. Ran him down and skinned him, of course. My favorite cheetah, Chester. We love Chester Cheetah, don't we, folks? With the high-top sneakers and the cool sunglasses. First time I met Chester was in '89 at CBGB's. And he walked up to me and he lowered those shades. He lowered them down to the tip of his cheetah nose. And he said to me, sir, I'll never forget what he said to me. He said, sir, it's not easy being cheesy. True words. And seriously, who thought giving Donald Trump a dagger was a good idea? The second he unwrapped it, I bet he started running around the White House Rose Garden like this.
Let me see what you have.
No! Melania had to call up whoever it was that was dumb enough to send it. Yep, Melania, we understand now that was not a smart gift to send the president. Look, we're just glad everyone is okay. We promise that next time we will, be best. Is that right? So all kinds of crazy flew under the radar during Trump's presidency. Meanwhile, here's a very real story about President Biden that Politico thought qualified as news last week. He swears a lot. When he gets going, he definitely gets going, said one White House official. In meetings with aides, Biden's vulgarities include, but are not limited to, them. What are we doing? Why the isn't this happening? Bullshit, damn it, or just simply The man is 78. I think he's old enough to curse. I'm in my 40s, and I curse that much just getting out of a chair. And are we in high school? Was this gossip delivered next to an open locker? Did you hear? Joe Biden said the word. Of course Joe Biden curses. Nobody says malarkey unless they're trying really hard not to say go get. The guy's from Scranton, which is a place for people not fancy enough for Philly. Scranton even sounds like a curse word. Hey, get off your ass and do some work, you Scranton dip. He lives in Delaware. Have you ever been to Delaware? When you get off the Amtrak in Wilmington, it's almost impossible not to say, oh. I have cousins in Delaware, and we have multiple Delawareans on our staff, so I can make those jokes, knowing full well that the next time I see them, they will tell me off. It's like how they express love. I do wish we'd see more of this version of Joe Biden, though. Sometimes the soft-talking Joe can be a little unnerving. He's like a grandpa in a dystopian YA movie who won't admit how bad things are. It's okay, we're gonna be fine. We're out of food, but I think I can talk some sense to the Council of Authorium. No one here is gonna have to compete in the Death Olympics. No one! I'd rather Joe just came out guns blazing, flipping people off at town halls, challenging Jake Tapper to an arm wrestling match. Just be the grandpa who goes to Lowe's and finds out the cost of propane went up $1.50. That's the first time I ever heard the words horse and kiss my wrinkly old ass in the same sentence. But I get his frustration. Everyone's frustrated with everything. You can just feel it. People are mad and tired after a year and a half of being cooped up inside and Republicans being nut jobs and corporate Democrats making things difficult just because they can. Everyone's exhausted. Everything's exhausting. Former President Obama made that point during a rally in Virginia for Democratic gubernatorial candidate Terry McAuliffe over the weekend.
Look, I know a lot of people are tired of politics right now. Listen, I'll make a confession. I never watch political shows. Michelle and I, when we're at home, I'm reading, she's watching HGTV. maybe the Food Channel.
Only Obama could get away with a joke like that. If I ever said that about my wife, I'd get an icy stare so haunting it would stay with me for the rest of my life. I'd have to change stream mid-conversation. Well, I'm the reader in the family. This one's always watching Keeping Up with the Dow Jones. She's very good with money. I just spend it, but she makes sure we save for the kids' future. But I guess Obama's just working on some new material because ever since he left the White House, he's always peppered some stand-up comedy into his speeches. And he did the same in Virginia, referencing the fact that the GOP candidate for governor, Glenn Youngkin, has refused to say if he personally supports same-sex marriage.
I mean, I understand why people just feel kind of like, oh, when's this going to end? And sometimes politics in Washington feels that way, right? It's like, oh, are we still arguing about gay marriage? Really? I thought that ship had sailed. So I thought that was pretty clearly the right thing to do. I thought we got Republicans across the country who said, yeah, that, of course, and we're going to reopen that can of what?
I love when stand-up Obama comes back. Someone get that man a brick wall and a cordless mic. He must be working on material for his new Netflix special, Barack, Oh No You Didn't. What's the deal with cell phones on airplanes? You're telling me I can call Beijing from Air Force One, but JetBlue won't let me play Candy Crush. I guess the only thing they want crushed is my kneecaps. When the dummy in front of me leans his seat back. Let's see, what else? What else? All right, Obama's in Virginia because the race for governor is tight there, and Republicans are already preparing to call any Democratic victory in that state stolen, just like they did with the 2020 election. In fact, former Trump aide Steve Bannon has already said as much, and last week he invited MyPillow CEO Mike Lindell back on his podcast to float yet another weird claim about supposed voter fraud. You can find fraudulent votes in parking lots.
Either McAuliffe is going to lose or it's going to be so tight, right? And you got this thing in Fairfax where they're trying to steal it already because the Biden administration has collapsed.
The really interesting part is you can pull a household. If you pull a household that has 5 people or below, it's usually very accurate, about almost 100%. You go there, yes, all 5 voted, all 5 live there. You get up to 6, up to, it can go all the way as high as 300. But let's say you have 20 people living in this household, and you look, or this house, and you look on Google Maps, because the computer pulls it up, it's a little single dwelling. Now you go out there, and you find out only 2 people live there, but they used all the other 18 people's names that they pulled there. Empty parking lots, I mean, you name it, it's on there.
You know, I'm starting to worry that Mike Lindell is neglecting his pillow business. No, I'm sorry, Mr. Lindell isn't in right now. He's on his hands and knees in the parking lot looking for votes. But yeah, sure, I can take a message. Okay, lumpy. Smells wet. Got it, anyway? Scratching sound coming from the inside. Also, I love how long his explanation is, and all it comes down to is you go on Google Maps. It'd be like your doctor saying, we're gonna take blood, run a full set of tests, get you the MRI, and then when we have all the data, we ask Jeeves. Seriously, what the hell is Lindell talking about? Does he think people are committing voter fraud because they're getting mail for old tenants? Because if you live in New York, that's just how it works. I didn't vote 18 times, but I still get mail at my apartment for 18 different people. I just got a telegram addressed to someone named Lois Perlmutter inviting them to a Save Penn Station fundraiser. Joke for the Jane Jacobs fans. Republicans are not abandoning Trump's war on democracy, they're embracing it, which is why it's all the more important that we get to the bottom of what happened after the last election before Republicans try to steal the next one, especially after bombshell new allegations reported by Rolling Stone yesterday in which several GOP members of Congress are accused of holding dozens of planning sessions with the organizers of the January 6 rallies that ultimately led to the violent insurrection at the Capitol.
A January 6th bombshell. Rolling Stone magazine reporting that organizers of the Capitol rally that day had been promised a, quote, blanket pardon by a U.S. congressman.
Rolling Stone reports Arizona Congressman Paul Gosar gave protest organizers the impression that he had spoken to then-President Trump about the pardons for an unrelated investigation.
The organizers said they allegedly spoke to, quote, a dozen U.S. representatives or their teams. They named Representative Paul Gosar and Representative Andy Biggs of Arizona, Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia, Representative Lauren Boebert of Colorado, Madison Cawthorn of North Carolina, Louis Gohmert of Texas, and Mo Brooks of Alabama, all Republican congressmen and women. Right now, we don't know what was discussed with each representative by those planners, but the organizers gave Rolling Stone an example with Representative Gosar, who's saying he offered them the possibility of receiving a, quote, blanket pardon to motivate them to plan the rallies.
Geez, everyone was in on this. Was Lindell there too? I found a fake ballot in the parking lot of a CVS. This guy voted 3 times for someone named Trojan Magnum. Blanket pardon sounds like the kind of made-up fake legal things these doofuses would say. It's a weird feature of our politics that the most sinister characters are also the biggest morons. You can just imagine Paul Gosar or Marjorie Taylor Greene on the phone with the January 6 idiots huddled in their weird little malicious hideout / treehouse, promise them all kinds of crazy. You didn't hear it from me, but I spoke to the chief wizard of the Supreme Court, and he said there's a secret provision written by Benjamin Franklin's ghost. And it says you can have a blanket pardon, a private plane, and a $100 gift card to Golden Corral. And if you don't remember Paul Gosar, he's the guy who's so crazy 6 of his siblings famously endorsed his opponent. And he recently claimed that secret sources inside something called the CIA fraud department told him the election was stolen.
Here's what he said about 2 weeks before Republicans in his state announced they had found nothing but additional votes for Joe Biden in their bogus and expensive audit of election results in Arizona's most populous county.
If we can do that and follow through on this audit, folks, if it's what I've been told, and I had people come to me early hours of the day after, from the Security Exchange Fraud Department to the CIA Fraud Department, that between 450 and 700,000 ballots were altered in the state of Arizona.
First, the CIA Fraud Department, not a thing, doesn't exist.
Exactly. The greatest trick the CIA fraud department ever pulled was convincing the world they didn't exist. Gosar does seem like the kind of guy who's on the phone with other fraud departments a fair amount. Well, the thing is, someone from your bank emailed me for my social security number, so I do think you're responsible for my identity being stolen. Who from your bank? Your mascot, Chester Cheetah. He's not your mascot? Again, this is the fun thing, right? Like, when there's no audience, you're like, yeah, Chester Cheetah's gonna kill, we'll call it back, they'll carry me out on the shoulders. And then the show ends and we go back in the dressing room and we're like, that callback worked, and they're like, yeah. Now we're finding out, you guys. We're finding out. In a way, you are the CIA fraud department. And you just exposed that joke. And it also wouldn't surprise me if Marjorie Taylor Greene was involved in all this. She, of course, was a vocal backer of Trump's big lie and the ensuing attempt to overthrow the election results. And last week, when the House voted to hold Steve Bannon in contempt for refusing to comply with subpoena, she got into yet another shouting match with some of her colleagues.
Yesterday, we saw conspiracy theorist and Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, Republican of Georgia, approach and accost Congresswoman Liz Cheney.
This happened during the debate over the criminal contempt referral of Steve Bannon. Taylor Greene walked behind Congresswoman Liz Cheney and Congressman Jamie Raskin during that debate and basically accused them of making too much out of this and saying that they were focused on the wrong things. It delved into a shouting match on some level between the three of them, and Liz Cheney actually calling Marjorie Taylor Greene a joke and bringing up the fact that she had talked about Jewish space lasers at one point, a claim that Greene very much denies.
Greene yelled back that she never said that and called Cheney a joke.
It's not great when you start a confrontation with someone and have to end it by insisting you never claim wildfires were started by Jewish space lasers. It's getting harder and harder to articulate just how unhinged the right has become. They're now claiming they're vindicated by everything from secret sources inside fake CIA fraud departments to proof of voter fraud found in empty parking lots. And they're not going to stop. They're doubling down, and new reporting continues to link them directly to attempts to overthrow our democracy. These people need to be told in no uncertain terms.
No!
Didn't see that one coming. This has been a closer look. God's Love We Deliver cooks and brings over 2 million meals a year to men, women, and children living with HIV, AIDS, cancer, and other serious illnesses, and they need your help. Now more than ever, if you're watching this online, you can hit the donate button. Stay safe, get vaccinated. We love you.